So welcome, Melanie. Thanks for taking the time out to be with me today. For those that don't know, my name's Sandhya and I have ADHD, although not diagnosed, but I'm pretty much 100% sure that I have ADHD. And I want to interview quite a few people to find out about their story with ADHD. So I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about your story, please, with ADHD, or whether you're diagnosed or whether you think you're diagnosed. So yeah, I'd love to know.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I have not been diagnosed like yourself, but many years ago, I think even in my 20s, I was like, I think I have ADD, especially when I was thinking back to high school and even elementary school, how I like really had a hard time sitting still. And I always did well in school, but I'm sure that many girls do well, and that's why they don't get diagnosed. And girls in general have a tendency to behave differently, so it's not called out as much and noticed. And in high school, I obviously did really well in the things that I loved, and I could focus in those classes. But the classes that I struggled in were the ones that I didn't love and I couldn't pay attention. And then when I went to go to college, I had a very like severe sort of reaction because I couldn't go to class. I was just overwhelmed. My classes were huge. I felt when I would go into the lecture hall that I was definitely being overstimulated and I
Yeah.
was overwhelmed. And that manifests for me even now if I get a lot too much stimulation. I have to keep my environment really organized because otherwise my brain is on fire.
I hear you. I hear you. And what other struggles do you find with your ADHD?
I definitely find that when I get either overwhelmed or, like I said, if my environment has too much stimulus, that I have an incredibly difficult time concentrating. Like that's my biggest pitfall is my concentration. And I've actually written a few books, cookbooks, and I struggled writing those, even though it's what I love doing. And part of it was because I had a deadline, which I've never worked well on deadlines because I'm historically a procrastinator. I've definitely taught myself some tools, but whenever I would write books, I would set a timer for 30 minutes and then I would take a break for 10 and then set a timer. And sometimes I would find myself just sitting on my hands. So I would be like, I'm not getting up from the chair. I'm going to keep working. But as long as I'm a teacher, right? I teach cooking. So as long as I'm moving around, I'm usually fine. It's when I have to sit at a desk and or in a chair and concentrate about something because this is not sort of my forte and I like movement and that really I think it's I think I knew instinctively when I was younger that this what college wasn't going to work for me, sitting at a desk wasn't going to work for me, and because I loved cooking and baking, grew up doing it, I knew that that would be an amazing outlet. And I always say that that's sort of the people that work in kitchens often have ADD. It's not diagnosed, it's not treated, but it's sort of almost like how you can take medication. It's almost like taking medication because in that environment, having ADD actually can serve you well. And it works so conducively to performing well. And I think when you perform well, you build up your confidence versus often people who do have ADD lack confidence because they're constantly being whatever that is ridiculed, told they're too much, this is wrong. Where in a kitchen that doesn't happen, and in not just a kitchen, but in environments like that where you're not sitting and expected to perform a certain way.
Yes, 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 yes. I hear you. I also, oh, I can hear feedback. Hang on a moment. So I noticed as well you were talking about ADD. So just to clarify as well for the listeners, we that's attention deficit disorder. However, that is the old name now. So it's now ADHD inattentive type.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I think because I've never been formally diagnosed, and obviously I was born in 1970, so back in the 80s it was called ADD, and it sort of stuck in my brain. But yes,
Yes, yeah, because many people say, I say I've got ADHD, and they're like, oh, yeah, but you're not really hyperactive. And I said, well, no, I've got the attentive type, and they're still going back to the ADD. Um,
yes.
but yeah, it's a little bit tricky that. But yeah, just for anyone who's listening, just to clarify that, and lots of people do say ADD now, but the actual diagnosis is ADHD, or and you get inattentive, um, hyperactive, or combo of the two. And like you as well, I teach yoga Pilates, and I find, because I'm moving and I'm doing a variety of things, that really, really helps. So yeah, thank you. Can you tell us a bit about your business for anyone who's listening is interested in what you do?
Yeah. So I have a cooking school in New York and I do virtual classes and I integrate experiences with sound often into that environment. Really, for me, for the past 29 years, I've been teaching culinary and baking. And about 7 years ago, I started teaching mindfulness because mindfulness was also part of sort of my journey. And it really did help me, but it also helped me with my anxiety.
Mhm.
So I really was like, hey, I want to bring this to people as well because cooking helped me so much with that. And I want other people to see that it can help them. And so I integrate sort of experiences, not just always about food, but definitely a lot with sound into what I do. And I really think it's about nourishing yourself and taking care of yourself and recognizing whatever it is for a person, right? Recognizing, hey, I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm feeling inattentive. That's half my battle is
Yeah.
just recognizing when it happens.
Mm. Yeah, very good. And how do you use your sound? Are you talking about sort of sound bath, sound healing?
Yes, I call them sound journeys. And that's only because I feel like healing really comes from within. So I'm just like with food, I'm giving people the material. And some people are, hey, I'm just in it to feel good. And other people are having their own personal healing. But that I started doing with Himalayan bowls and a drum. I'm looking because I'm looking over at them and koshi chimes, just because it really helps people relax and feel so centered.
Yes, yes. I've got Koshi chime. I've got the earth is my favorite.
And food is so grounding as well, and that's why for me, people believe me are like, well, how do these two things integrate? And I really just started doing the sound the past year, but they really do integrate so beautifully together because there's just so much between the two and related to the elements. And I feel like they're both really, really grounding for people.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think groundedness for people with ADHD, so often in the brain so much, is really important, isn't it? With the cooking, with the sounds, it really can help you just stay focused and take you out of the mind wandering.
Yes, it's like Pilates and yoga, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, my yoga teacher always says, truth is one, paths are many. We're all trying to find that calmness, and we're just taking our different ways to get there. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Melanie. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or do you think we covered everything?
No, I mean, I'm going to say this, like if you're struggling with it, there's all different ways to learn coping skills. And for me, keeping organized is a huge coping skill. If I'm not organized, I don't want to say act out, but I get very irritable because my brain, which is, I have 1,000 ideas a minute, is like on overload anyway. So I try to keep my environment serene. I actually, in my house, all my walls are like cream colored and there's not a lot in my house. And my friends are always are like, you have nothing here. And I'm like, yeah, because I don't want to be overstimulated.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to recognize that and that that's okay. And to just do what works for you and not worry about other people.
Yes. Well said. Well said. Thank you. Just in terms of you said keep organized. If anyone's listened to this, so how do you keep organized?
So for me, that's about using a calendar, and I use a digital calendar because I do better when I don't have a lot of paper. If
Mhm.
I have a lot of paper, it kind of contributes to my a little bit of chaos. So I keep as much digital as I can, and I have a calendar. I write everything down in it, and I know there's like a whole group of people who are like, you're not using that part of your brain when you write everything down. But I'm like, you know what? I'm using other parts, and
Yes.
and it's to me almost like compartmentalizing in a positive way. And I just write things down that way I don't forget them. And that's how I keep organized. And also in my environment around me, not having too much. Even when I'm working, people are like, you have nothing on your desk. And I'm like, I try to have very little just because for me, keeping it organized is the key. Like, um, the papers that I do have are in a file cabinet, right? And not having them on a desk. And I will say this, try not to do the same task more than once. I know people sometimes are like, no, that doesn't work. But if you're doing something, complete it in that moment and not complete it halfway and then do the rest later. Cause I think that's like so classic. And for me, that can also be a struggle, right? Like if I'm in the kitchen, maybe I'm cleaning and then I walk to the dining room to do something and then I'll start a task there. And then I'm like, all right, I want to go finish this task before I start another task.
Yes, yes, totally. I've just been recording a meditation and then I didn't have time to upload it. And I was like, I'll go back to that another time. And I've just said to myself, get back to that as soon as we finish this meeting, because I'll forget that it's even there, even though I put it on the spreadsheet. I'll forget what it is and what I'm doing and all of that jazz. Got to get it finished as much as I can. But it's, yeah, it's the thing of when you go into then another room, you've got to remember that you were back on that other task though too, don't you? That's the thing, trying to remind yourself all the time. Yeah. Great. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on. So do check out Melanie's classes and things. So on Insight Time, are you under Melanie Underwood?
I am. Yes. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Melanie. I'll see you again.
Okay. Bye.